If you've wanted to try the edge beading I've used in quite a few of my felt ornament tutorials, let me show you how. So to make these little loops, the first time you string on the beads, string on one extra. So I brought my needle up through the back of the felt and I strung on 5 seed beads, and now I'm bringing it up through the back of the felt again. Now I'm going to push the needle back up through the last seed bead. Now for every subsequent loop, I'm going to be using 4 seed beads. Of course, you can vary the number you use, but the first loop you make always has an extra bead. So here I am a couple loops further down, and again, I'm bringing my needle up through the back of the felt and then pushing it back through the last seed bead. And don't forget, when you're stitching with small seed beads like this, you will need a beading needle. It's smaller than a hand sewing needle. I have some linked in my felt ornament supply list, and you can match the size of the needle to the size of the seed bead. Here I'm adding beads to the wing of my felt swan ornament, and it's just decorative, but you can use this same stitch to sew together a felt ornament with beads. And here's a little tip. I love storing beads in these stackable containers because I can go in there and pick them up with my needle. If you've reached the end of your edge beading or you've run out of thread, here's what to do. Push your needle back through the loop of beads, flip it over just to make sure that you haven't messed up the tension of the last loop. I just double check, make sure everything looks nice. Then push the needle back down through the bead that's anchored on the felt. Use your needle to make a small little knot. I will usually do 2, and then, as I've shown you in other videos, push your needle through the felt just to bury the end and trim the thread. I'm going to show you another method of doing this, but I just want to acknowledge at this point that this style of edge beading comes from indigenous styles of beading, which I learned when I worked as a historical reenactor. Here you can see you can make loops in different sizes. I often make it just very small, but let me show you if you just want to add 1 bead, it's a slightly different process. So if you've watched my tutorial on how to do a blanket stitch, we're going to start in the same way. Create your first stitch and then slide on a bead. It doesn't have to be a seed bead, but instead of going through the bead like we did with the looped style of edge beading, we're just stitching the blanket stitch as normal, incorporating the bead. So unlike the other stitch where we worked through the bead, in this case, we're really just incorporating a bead into a regular blanket stitch just to add a little bit of sparkle. With both the looped style and this style of edge beading, it can be decorative, but you can also sew together an ornament this way, like I did with this one. Let me know what you think in the comments.